there's no excuse. You've been loosed.
This is From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Each week, Janice shares her wisdom to enlighten, educate, and advance the culture in America today. Janice Pons is a mother, author, and free thinker, and your host for our podcast this evening. Now let's join your host, Janice Pons.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in the house. Welcome home. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. I am honored. I'm blessed to be here. My name is Janice Pons. I am your host on this show, on this podcast, From Destruction to Dignity, Clinical Perspectives, Spiritual Truths. You know, we talk about a little bit of everything. Now, you know, I talk about everything from A to Z pretty much. Out of a given month, I'll do 3 weeks where I'm dealing with all of these clinical perspectives. And then we have the spiritual truths that dovetail into it all. And then one of the particular segments, I'm going to go flat out political. You think we ought to talk about politics? Somebody said, well, you better stop. You better not talk about religion and politics. Why not? Let's do that. Well, you know what? Because I am going to dive into, I have been coming from my book, The Scapegoat. And I've just been dissecting it going there because there are a lot of things in the scapegoat to provoke thought, to bring awareness and point people towards intervention. Dr. Alveda King said that the scapegoat asks questions and offers promising solutions to our struggling world. Is our world struggling? Yes, it is. And as you know, stealing the minds of America, I'm so thrilled that people are still ordering this. I wrote this in 2008, Stealing the Minds of America. Janice's mind was stolen, effectively and strategically stolen. And I took it back, Stealing the Minds of America. I was honored to write that. And then years later, actually 12 years later, I wrote The Scapegoat. So I've been dissecting the scapegoat because I'm telling you right now, there are so many dynamics going on in our nation that are just riddled with scapegoating, undue hostility towards others. Is that what we do as Americans? Where it's undue, there is no reason to be given attention to anything. And it's not hostility. Listen, sometimes things need to be addressed. Some issues need to be addressed. Some things need to be brought to our attention so we can make needed adjustments, and we can be, all of us can be who God has called us to be. And I'm telling you what, politically, we have leaders in our country, and we have someone called the Commander-in-Chief. But what we're going to deal with is part 2 tonight, because we were thrust into a dynamic years ago, and this is called Commander in Deceit, part 2. When I did Commander in Deceit part 1, that was like in the top 10 on the Creative Motion Television Network, and it ended up being as well on Conservative Television of America. Listen, deceit, what does that mean? It means we're not being truthful. It's a willful plan. It's a willful communication that the person knows what they're saying. It's not going to go down. It's not going to go down like what they're saying. I'm going to give you an example. Commander in Deceit, let's just listen. I care about every American there is. When you're in leadership, there is a higher level of expectation. Yes, it is. And if someone gets in front of the entire nation and says, for every bill that's going to be passed, we're going to have it on C-SPAN. We're going to have it where all Americans can read what's in that bill. Never happened. That's deceitful. It never happened. We're going to have millions of shovel-ready jobs. That never happened. To the point that later he said, there were not. Jobs weren't so shovel ready. Listen, let's dissect some things, because we We got a huge election coming up in 2024. Where we are right now, we didn't just get there this year. We didn't get there this year. This has been a long historical pathway. So we're going to look at some things. Why would I even say commander in deceit? You know, deceit is because we were told certain things and they knew it wasn't going to happen and it didn't happen. And do we need to be thinking about that and thinking about alignment and thinking about policies matter? Policies matter. So let's look at something. When Barack Hussein Obama was put in office, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. And so many believed it. And during his first quarter in office, it indicated that his job approval rating averaged at about 63%. That's high. Actually, it was the highest first quarter average for any president since 1977. 2.5 years later, in December of 2011, it revealed that his job approval rating was the worst of any president at that same stage of his term in modern history. What happened? Remember the crowds? Remember the enthusiasm? Remember? The Holy Spirit showed me when all that was going on. He said, this is what's going to happen. Pay attention, observe, and learn. And I said, my God, I want to be his most vocal advocate now. You know, if he's going to do it, he's just observe and learn. He said, just pay attention. And he said, you have to listen to what comes out of someone's mouth and how it lines up with truth. Not you just making up stuff, not just making up things, but looking at patterns, connecting the dots, and just being intellectually honest, emotionally honest. So that's what I began to do. And when I heard him speak and when I heard his wife speak, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We're getting ready to go down a pathway here. It's going to be a lot of dynamics that's going to come out that's going to affect this nation. So how do you go from 63% approval rating, one of the highest, to having the worst of any president in modern history? It went from 63 to 43%. Now, Jimmy Carter's, I remember Jimmy Carter. Some of you don't remember President Carter. I remember the gas lines so long they were wrapping around blocks in communities. It was horrendous. But his was at 51% during the same stage of their terms as president, comparing Carter with Obama. What had caused the drastic decline? Now, to answer that question is very important that we have to quiet our emotions. And this is what people get so caught up in, their emotions. We have to look beyond skin color. Well, he was the first black. He's the first black. Well, are you against black people? Are you kidding me? I'm a descendant of slaves. ADOS, American descendant of slaves. No. But skin color does not drive what I do and what I think. Politically, I look at policies, and I look at facts. So what would happen if we get intellectually honest and get out of our emotions? Now, under President Obama, under Barack Hussein Obama, there were a lot of first this, first that. And one of the first that we just had never really heard of, there was about 30 czars that were put in governmental positions. They were just czars. I hadn't heard of it. I grew up in the late 50s, going into the 60s. I was right in the midst of the Civil Rights Act, Jim Crow. Oh, Lord, help me, Jesus. Yes, he did. What is a czar? Merriam-Webster's dictionary, a czar is defined as an emperor or one having great power or authority. Now, the issue with all of the czars that all of a sudden came on the scene is that they only reported to him. There were no votes on things that began to happen. They didn't pass through a vote or a confirmation process, but they were just, but were chosen and put into position without any constitutional precedents of the past in this nation. Now, there are other political systems that have had czars. It was just a new presentation in our nation that we had never seen this. So we had a border czar, we had a car czar. We had 3 tech czars. We had a bailout czar. We had a faith-based czar, a drug czar, regulatory czar, a special advisor czar, and more. But the question was, what were they doing? What were they doing? One thing that became real clear with that administration that we still are dealing with today, because you got to remember who was his vice president. There was a lack of transparency. Father, have mercy upon us now as a nation. There was a lack of transparency, and we were just supposed to go along with it and don't ask any questions whatsoever. So, and this is still prevalent today. Under Obama, I'm talking about the commander in Deceit. We're still dealing with the same dynamic. The question of constitutionality. What are our constitutional rights? What is it that we have a right in saying, for example, what goes in our bodies? Religious exemptions? Are they honored? Are they ignored? Are they abused? Obama said that he would have the most transparent administration ever. But the appointment of the czars was a total contradiction of that. Now, let's look at some of those czars. He had a green jobs czar, Van Jones. You know what Mr. Jones embraced? A communist ideology. Anybody that knows about Van Jones, do your research. The man had a communist ideology. He appointed a science czar, John Holden, at the time. He wrote in a college textbook, look what he said, that compulsory green abortions should be an acceptable way to establish control of the population. Control of the population. Let me just go on and throw this in right now. Do you know that right now, males in this nation, between the ages of 18 and 39, there's been an 84% increase of males between the ages of 18 and 39 dying from cardiac-related issues. 84% population. Obama appointed a safe school czar. Now, I'm going to camp out right here. You know why? I have a heart for children, and I know what's going on. There's an agenda. There's been a target put on the backs of our babies. Janice worked as a teacher and a school psychologist, and I'm a licensed clinician, and I know where this stuff leads. I've dealt with the kids who've been sexually molested. I've dealt with the ones who've been abused. I've dealt with the ones who have been targeted by adults sexually. I know where that goes. I was molested myself. I know where that goes. Kevin Jennings, he was a safe school czar. And Now, y'all know where I come from about homosexuality. I love everybody, care about, respect, honor. But I tell you, and you have a lot of people that say they're homosexual. They have a real issue with the targeting of children because they say, I've talked to them, I work with them, I interact with them. And they say, look, they are consenting adults, but they are really ticked off at this agenda with children. Do you know they had a drag queen? Where I'm thinking that was in a school, but it was a gathering where children were at. This drag queen was dancing, doing their thing, and they started depicting an abortion where there was a bloody child. Is that acceptable? Kevin Jennings, who was our Safe School czar, he had a deep-seated hatred for God. And he was a co-founder and executive director of GLEN, the Gay, Lesbian, and now they've added on straight, Education Network. Now, he devoted his energies. Listen to me. People said, where did all this curriculum come from? You know, when it got exposed, when COVID happened, and parents were looking at the computers that their children, when they were on the lockdown, and they were seeing all these things that children, they were bringing home, and that was word. They were blown away, and they got ticked off, and they started asking questions. And this has all emerged in the last 5 years. Kevin Jennings, Obama's Safe School czar, developed and advocated classroom curricula for America's public schools aimed at re-educating school-age children to embrace sexuality a particular way. When I was a teacher and I taught a combination K-1, and I had, my favorite grade was third grade. I had third graders. Honey, we were too busy doing academics and to be talking about masturbation, to be talking about in middle school fisting. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Who wrote the curricula? That this is what is being taught in our public schools and our taxpayer dollars are paying for it. Kevin Jennings wrote in a book in 1999, Queering Elementary Education, that he wanted to initiate a saturation process that shapes the imagination of kindergartners related to matters of sexuality, and he had a particular agenda related to homosexuality. Oh, kindergartners? Mr. Safe School czar? Oh, that's what we're teaching them now. When I taught combination K-1 many years ago, it was all about reading, writing, arithmetic, social studies, geography, PE, music, art. That discussion had no place in the classroom. And now you have teachers that think that it is their responsibility to even talk about what they do at home sexually. I think not. Listen, none of what I'm saying is an attack on gay people. You can never say that Janice is homophobic. It's a lie. I'll hug a gay person in a minute. Ask them. They know me. They'll ask for a hug. I don't have any problem with that. We talk. We converse. They ask me to pray for them. We pray together. We process things. And you know what? Some of them are very ticked off about this, what I'm talking about. And they said, where did it come from, Miss Janice? I said, well, do you really want to know? Yeah, let's talk about that. And it's this. The Obama administration ushered in this to our nation at an entirely other level. And it was, we're not supposed to talk about it. Commander in Deceit. I respect and I love everyone, gay people, homosexual, heterosexual. But I'm telling you what, this safe school czar, he put this thing on steroids. And this indoctrination that's going on now, that parents, some of them are feeling totally helpless. You remember? I believe it when we did Commander in Deceit, part 1. You remember when he said, we're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. Remember that? Remember that? He said that. You see what's gone on since then? That's the transformation of America. It was intentional. It was, yes, we can. Yes, we can. Barack Hussein Obama introduced specific changes to our nation to shift us away from a Christian heritage and to target and influence the minds of young children in public schools related to the issues of sexuality. Tell me I'm wrong. Because I have a whole lot of as evidenced by. Another area that they operated in so much deceit that we're still dealing with today. Trump got in there and turned so much around. The GDP was at record numbers. I could go on and on about what he did. Yeah, he was rough around the edges. Yes, he was the brash New Yorker. But I'm telling you what, our economy, our 401ks were thumping. It was so much success going on. Companies were coming back, bringing billions of dollars. They're gone again. Why? Policies matter. Speaking of the economy, under Obama's administration, this deceptive plan that they just sold, they crammed down our throats. They targeted the automobile industry as his automotive task force. That all of a sudden, we got to have an automotive task force. They announced the closing of thousands of profitable car dealers. Go back and check it out. Janice is not making this stuff up. I've done a lot of extensive research, years and years and years, before I put this in a book. A Reuters report quoted a lawyer who represented dealers that were being closed. He said that he had the distinct impression that the companies were following orders coming straight from the White House. Of course they were. But what was the purpose of successful, some of y'all remember it, successful dealerships just closing down, It became clear that Chrysler, they just didn't see the wisdom of terminating 25% of its dealers. It really didn't come down to being their decision. They were under pressure from Obama's automotive task force. And here's something that's very significant. When this came out, it's just the truth. It was investigated. What was going on? Why were they being ordered to shut them down? An investigation revealed that multiple dealers were closed, who were closed. They had contributed millions of dollars to Republicans and little to none to Obama. As time went on, there was undeniably a pattern which emerged under his administration, in which businesses and nonprofits were targeted. Guess what? Guess what it's based on? Their political affiliation. This was seen in a legal settlement in which the IRS expressed its sincere apology for mistreating a conservative organization called Linchpins of Liberty. Folk started speaking up. dealerships that were successful were closing down. But guess what? It wasn't just linchpins for liberty. It was 40 other conservative groups in their applications for what? Tax exempt status. It was simply denied. It was denied. That was unheard of. In reality, there were literally hundreds of groups targeted by the IRS. The IRS was weaponized against the citizens of the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America under that particular administration, Commander in Deceit. Does anybody remember cash for clunkers? They were people. That program allowed people to turn in old cars for up to $4,500 in cash. Recipients were then to use that money to put toward purchase of a more fuel efficient vehicle, and that were traded in through the program, which cost us how much? $3 billion for money that was not used to buy green vehicles. We're supposed to buy green vehicles. Instead of stimulating the economy, researchers at Texas A&M, who measured the impact of the Cash for Clunkers program on sales, found that the program actually decreased industry revenue by $3 billion over a 9 to 11 month period. It was a total failure. Cash for clunkers. I remember all that. Deceit. The program was supposed to jumpstart the U.S. auto sales and clean up the environment by getting gas-guzzling vehicles off the road. In the end, it was a clunker itself. It just failed. Anybody remember the $787 billion emergency stimulus package? Anybody remember that? Which was one of the most expensive bills in U.S. history. It was shovel-ready jobs. You know what happened under shovel-ready jobs? There was a 58.2% increase of Black Americans on food stamps. There was a 9% decrease of Black Americans owning homes. That's not Janice just pulling something off of some right-wing news outlet. That's the Department of Agriculture. It was predicted to save or create, it was going to be a sweeping economic package, and it was going to create 3.6 million jobs. Honey, people want food stamps. It was bad. The stimulus package was a deceitful presentation to bring this nation to its knees. It really was. So were there any shovel-ready jobs? No. And you know what Obama said, and I got a direct quote here. He said, shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected. I don't remember hearing any jobs being produced. That it was significant. Millions of Americans were still unemployed, while millions were just they were just left helpless. Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. Listen to me. I want every president in this constitutional republic of the United States of America to soar, to do well. I want us all as Americans. But I'm gonna tell you where we are right now in this nation. It is not even about Democrats. It's not about Republicans. It's not about independents. It's not about libertarians. It's about America. This country, this path that we're on now is to bring us to our knees. At the border, they are coming across. I saw in El Paso, Texas, what's going on in the streets. It looks like a third world country down there. Listen, we need people with backbone. The Republican Party wanted me to send, the National Republican Party wanted me to send them $100. I told them, I'm not sending you one thin dime until you show some leadership with backbone and you show some accountability. So I pray in the name of Jesus that Kevin McCarthy will stand up and be a powerful leader and will show some accountability and bring this nation back from a pathway that we're on that's very destructive. God has a plan for America. God always had a plan for America. America was a beacon of light. America was a Christian nation, and they're trying to take that away. It's a lie. We need to stand up and say who we really are and embrace it and shout the truth from the mountaintop. We are Americans, and God has a plan for this nation. What's your role? Good night.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of From Destruction to Dignity with Janice Pons. Janice's mission is to provoke thought, bring awareness, and point people towards intervention when needed. As a reminder, this show is not therapy, but for educational purposes only. For more information, check out JanicePons.com or follow her on social media.
Education, affirmation, dedication, information, revelation.